What is up, internet world, and welcome back to the channel. Today I bring you the Nissan Rogue. We have done a whack load of these compact SUVs. The Escape, the Bronco Sport, the Tucson, the CX-5, even the rugged CX-50, the Sportage, most recently the CR-V, but we haven't done two. The first one is this, the Rogue, and then the second one, eventually we'll get to it, and that is the RAV4. So today we're gonna focus on this. Now from here it looks like a RAV4, and I wanna get into the most important feature of this Rogue right away, and that's how these back doors open. They open up at a 90-degree, and that's a feature that's overlooked when people talk about this Rogue. So to the front of the Rogue, and you'll see how this hood flares down to give it a short overhang appearance. So if we start off with these DRLs, I will tell you that the headlights are not here, they're only DRLs. The headlights are down here along with the high beams. And then the fog lights, you ask, are lower right here. Now you can get this all black because there's a lot of chrome going on this front grille with the Midnight package. Hopefully it looks better than what this looks like because there's so much chrome in my opinion that with it gone would just look a lot more modern. Now because this is a Platinum, you have all the safety features including keeping you in your lane, stop and go, collision avoidance systems, and they're hiding behind this Nissan badge or logo right there. They also have the front 360 camera right underneath the logo, and then you have Parktronics or your ultrasonic radar. That was really bland and boring talking about the radars and stuff, huh? I know. But what is not bland and boring is this guy. Imagine we had one of these but larger. They come in when you hit 1 million subs, which we expect to put right here, but that won't happen with these two broken fingers. It'll only happen when you press the subscribe button, the red thing down there. To the side of this half Jeep Cherokee, half Toyota RAV4, and we'll call this the Nissan Rogue. In Caspian blue with super black on top. Yep, you can get this in a two-tone variation. You can get it all Caspian blue, or you can get it like this, two-tone. Super black on the top, Caspian blue on the bottom. But seriously speaking, I actually don't mind the look of this Rogue. I like that the shoulder line is nice and high. You've got these wide windows and this black trim on the bottom, and this chrome trim on top sort of separates it a little bit. But the most important piece on the back here, as I mentioned, is how wide this door opens. Hello. So you have these 19-inch wheels, and then you have this cladding, this Subaru type cladding that flows all the way up and over the back wheels, and then you have the matching of 2022, which essentially means that the taillights wrap around the side of the vehicle to also match the front headlights that wrap around the side of the vehicle. If you notice, most cars nowadays have this feature. It's a design language everybody's using. If you like this, comment below. If this is your favorite compact SUV, comment below. And if you absolutely hate it, let us know. One of the biggest complaints about Nissan in general, not specifically the Rogue, is the key. This key is the lightest, weakest key in the car business. It looks okay when you look at it, but just something about it just kind of, not so good. But the one thing they do make up for is having this little square on the front and the back, which means I can lock the vehicle and walk away from it in the back. Not a lot of brands at this level have this feature, which sounds crazy, but it makes total sense. If I have a child with me and I want to open the door, push the button, open the door, and put stuff in along with the child, off you go, little kitty, and then get in the front, I can do that with the key in my pocket. But other brands, you can't. You have to go to the front, press the button, and then go to the back, which is one extra step of annoyance. Thank you, Nissan. And this has the 360 cameras. So on the back, I will say the Nissan Rogue is actually wider when looking at it than it actually is. It actually is only this wide from the tailgate to right here, and it creates this illusion because these quarters are wider and these taillights give it that impression that it's wider than it actually is. Now I like how this black roof extends like a spoiler. I don't like the fact this wiper is here. I wish it was under the third brake light because in Canada you have all this snow that sits here, and this seems to always break, not just in Nissans, but a lot of other brands out there. And moving below, you have your rear camera, your power tailgate button, and then underneath that you have the ability to tow 1,500 pounds and no tailpipes, where there is one actually hiding right there, but you cannot see it when you're driving behind it. So let's open up this power tailgate and see what's inside. So let's see how much space we have in the back of the Nissan Rogue with the seats up. We have 41 inches as far as depth, and as far as width, we have 45 inches. Now the Nissan Rogue really shines when it comes to features. So we'll start off with the trunk area. You can drop the load floor, which is right above the full-size spare tire. So I can slide this underneath and now have a lower load floor to sort of put higher objects when I want to put it inside the trunk. The seats fold down as well, and I will show you how. You can actually fold them right here. Pull that, and that folds down. And something like that in a compact vehicle is a nice touch. Now, if you notice, the second row seating folds completely flat. And as far as depth, I have 74 inches or just over 6 feet. So 6 feet from when the tailgate is closed all the way to the back of the front driver's seat. Now there are two buttons on the back of the Rogue tailgate. The first one is this guy, and that allows you to close the tailgate from the back. And then the one to the right is to lock the tailgate, assuming this is the last area you touch. So I hit this lock button, all the doors in the vehicle lock, as well as the tailgate, and you can walk away. But the Rogue has an extra feature that even the higher end SUVs do not have. And I mean, even the high-end SUVs. There's two buttons. The one to the left opens the tailgate when I have the key in my hand, and there's an extra button to the right, and that allows you to lock the doors and walk away. Even, as I mentioned, the higher ones don't have it. This guy does, and there's more features to show you. Back seat of the Nissan Rogue. Now, whew, look how wide that opens. I can fit an Evian bottle and a Red Bull in the back here. There's lots of space in this door panel. You also have rear sunshades. Very easy to get in and out of this. It's just a nice in and out entry-exit position. I do have heated seats on this side, heated seats on that side, and instead of just having a heated or cooled button down here for your temperature, I actually have a little display. That is nice. I do have a USB and a USB-C, and I have full vents. So at this price point and this size of vehicle, it's nice to have that little touch. Now, what about my seats? Do they slide backwards and forwards? And the answer is no. All you can do is recline it in two segments, one here and one here. Not much in terms of versatility. So I have this nice large panoramic sunroof along with these huge wide windows. When I'm sitting back here, it doesn't make me feel claustrophobic in any way. It sort of feels mid-size-ish, larger than a compact, what it actually is. They do have two large cup holders to put cups along with, as I mentioned, the door panel. And as far as safety goes, when they sit in the back here, I do have airbags built into the side of the seat. Now, oddly enough, brands like Audi and BMW charge $500 to have rear side airbags, but these things are free and they're in the car. Interesting. Front seat of the Nissan Rogue, and I will tell you that it's got a two-tone design. And look at this door panel. You have brown on the top. You have this little LED ambient lighting right underneath it. Nice soft touch. And then you have two increments of memory seat right below it. And then you don't have piano black. You have this brushed carbon looking aluminum style design right there. Different. I'm glad it's not piano black. There is something weird though. It only has automatic windows for the driver, not the passenger, and not the kiddies in the back. A little bit strange. And if we move to the two-tone dash, you will see brown at the top, black in the middle. That reminds me of the Mazda CX-50. And then you have this inlay that looks to be open pore wood, but it's not, and it's nice. I do like it. It's smooth to the touch. Now, as far as screens and technology, you have 10.8-inch heads-up display. You have a 12.3-inch driver's display. And on this one, because it's a Platinum, you have the 9-inch infotainment for everybody to use. And now moving below is where you have a little bit of piano black on the HVAC controls. They're nice and big, easy to read, and are color-coded when you're talking about temperature. Now, the interesting piece here is you can adjust the rear temperature. Now, this does have heated steering wheel, 3 increments of heated seats, but it does not have ventilated seats. There is blank buttons underneath, so maybe they were thinking about it. Moving below, you do have wireless charging that I can simply just slide my phone there and it charges. It does have a USB and a USB-C just like the rear, and a cigarette output. They do have a start and stop button over here, and then moving down, you have the same shifter as the Mitsubishi Outlander, which I feel is just really cheap to use. The park button is just above it. I push the button, it goes into park, and then I have two large cup holders that can fit more than a can of Red Bull and more than an Evian bottle of water. It does have electromechanical parking brake. It does have auto hold, and then 5 different drive select modes: off-road, snow, auto, eco, and of course, sport. And then moving down this tapered center console, I do have this button that opens up similar to the CX-50. I do have a decent amount of room, so I can probably fit 3 bottles of this Evian. There is extra storage underneath here where I sort of think about it like a minivan. It's got the space. There are no outputs or ports underneath here, and that's sort of something they could have probably put, but they did not. Now the Rogue does have a flat bottom steering wheel. It does have paddle shifters, which are completely useless because it does have a CVT. It actually bothers me that they're putting it in here. I would prefer it not to be here because it is a CVT. Simulated gears are not real gears, no matter how you try to spin it. The one thing I would definitely change on the steering wheel is how the volume knob is designed. I don't like these push buttons. They are very, very irritating because I go in increments of 1. Now, if I want to go from 20 in this specific case to 10 or 12, I got to hit this thing 10 times. Can you imagine how irritating this would be versus just being able to slide down really fast and get it from 20 to 10? That's how it's supposed to be designed. So Nissan, change this thing up and get rid of these buttons right here. If we take a brief dive into this 9-inch screen, it is actually fairly practical. You have 2 rotary knobs on the left for volume and on the right for tune and scroll. You do have hard buttons on the bottom that are not exactly hard, they're kind of soft to touch. You have your camera button that engages your 360 cameras, audio, menu, and map. The one thing I will tell you is it does have rewind satellite radio. When somebody does call you, it actually holds where the music stops. And because this is a Platinum, this does have wireless CarPlay. In the Nissan Rogue with the all-new 1.5-liter turbocharged inline 3-cylinder that makes 201 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque, mated to an upgraded CVT. Let's put this puppy in sport, foot to the ground, and okay, front wheel slips. The whole car shakes. Okay, all right, definitely not overwhelming. But their focus is on fuel mileage. Now they say that the CVT has been upgraded. The firmware is new. It now has 2 oil coolers, and on top of that, it's 30% less slippage than the old one. Even this engine makes more torque and horsepower than the old generation 2.5-liter non-turbocharged. It's very, 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 very smooth, but it's also very, very, very boring. Good. It doesn't feel floppy like an Escape does, that's for sure. It's just a little bit more on par with the Sportage, actually, for those looking at Sportage. So if you want raw numbers about performance, this does 0 to 60 in just about 8 seconds. Now if you want some sort of baseline of what fair performance should be, it should be about 7 seconds. 8 just seems a bit slow, 9 is ultra slow, and 10 is like 1990 slow. So this is slower, but they're focused on fuel mileage. Now I will say this is averaging 10.3 liters per 100 kilometers. Ian, do the math up here for our US viewers. And I will say that is fair. It's not great. Now their focus was on fuel mileage, and if you start driving it at 125 kilometers an hour on the highway, it kind of does what a 4-banger would do. So I think in their mind, even with this new VC, or what they call variable compression, where it's a mechanical system where they can increase and decrease compression based on how you drive. So that's cool. They're putting new technology in, like they started in the Altima, and now they have it in this Rogue. That's cool. They're doing something different to let us know that, you know, you can put a small engine in and it can produce these kind of numbers, which is great. 201 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque is amazing out of a 3-cylinder turbocharged engine. Really, really good numbers, especially when you're trying to hold reliability, you know, reliability. Now, because we've done a few competitors in its class, like the Sportage, the CR-V, and the Ford Escape, I will say that the interior of this, even though it's not as updated or as futuristic as, say, the Sportage or even maybe the CR-V, it's a lot more practical and feels better quality, even though when I look at it, I'm like, it's kind of old looking. But hey, it works. Everything is easy to use. The screen has better quality, better resolution than the CR-V. The buttons feel more tactile, just feel like they're better quality when I'm pushing them. They visually also look like better quality. The screen, though, itself looks like it's been plastered on this Rogue, whereas some of the competitors look like integrated, especially the Sportage. You get in the Sportage, you're like, oh, this is amazing. This is so 2022, 2023. This not really. I find that all three displays, if you talk about the driver's display, that's nice and big, you talk about the infotainment in the center, and then you look down to HVAC controls, they're all kind of different. They all have different fonts, different text, they all have different displays in my face. So they're like a bit of a mishmash, if you ask me. But at the same time, if you get out of your Infiniti Q and then you jump in here and you look at this dash, you think, hey, that's the same one in my Infiniti. Am I getting ripped off, or am I getting premium when I drive this Nissan Rogue? So as YouTubers, we believe that people buy cars on what we say, but when they're so close together, it's really about styling, is what we think. But it's actually about interest rates, because if you go in to buy one of these things and the rate's like 7.5%, and then you go across the street to a Ford dealer and they're like, our Escape is 0.9%, you can be like, I can live without having my wireless charger right there. I can live without this heads-up display. Yeah, that's what I think. It's about the money. And we don't review that part. That's on you. So if you guys like this video on this Nissan Rogue, catch you on the next one.